Is working to improve batteries that could not only make space missions safer and more efficient, but also the very items that we use today. And they've given Creighton University the opportunity to help with some of that research. 6 News' Joe Harris paid the college a visit today and gives us the details of what they're diving into.
NASA Nebraska Space Grant has awarded a 1-year, $6,000 grant to Creighton University's chemistry department. Assistant chemistry professor Dr. Angela Devlin says lithium-ion batteries, which are used in spacecraft, are the best we have right now. But the rap against them is how flammable they are.
It contains liquid in the cell that has acidic components. There's also a flammability risk associated with those liquid components.
In the process of researching the development of a safer battery, Devlin says they could also help develop one that is lighter and more compact, further helping space missions.
This is our metal organic framework materials.
Devlin and her students are looking into solid-state electrolytes in metal organic materials. She says these are not currently used in batteries, but they're studying to see how well they conduct electricity.
Metal organic frameworks are these sort of highly porous, cage-like materials.
She says the idea is that they have wide open channels that could serve as pathways for electricity to flow through.
I kind of think of it as a sponge. So we're working on sucking up different semiconducting materials to see which of those works best to conduct, and then what interactions are actually going on.
Finding a battery upgrade would also benefit cell phones, laptops, and electric vehicles. And last year, OPPD announced its 80-ton lithium-ion battery went live in a substation near Weeping Water. Devlin says the battery's flammability is a possible hazard.
That risk becomes amplified as we are building bigger batteries to meet increased demand.
A risk they're working to lower. On your side, Joe Harris, 6 News.
Dr. Devlin says having this opportunity to work on such a high-impact project is humbling and also provides an amazing research opportunity for her students.